5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, 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 YouTube. I'm Dan Salem. I am live on the BuzzChomp YouTube channel. I will dive right into my NFL talk and NFL predictions for the playoffs. But first, I must also go live on Facebook. In 3, 2, 1. Hello, Facebook. I'm Dan Salem, also live on YouTube. Here to talk the NFL. BuzzChomp over on YouTube, at the Dan Salem on Facebook. And I'm going to tweet this out at the Dan Salem on Twitter. I'll retweet it on BuzzChomp. We're going to talk the NFL playoffs. The NFL season preview continues here on BuzzChomp via myself, a lowly Jets fan who is rooting for other teams this year. Plus my Jets. All right. Let's hit the tweet button, and then we'll hit the retweet button. If you're following the NFL or YouTube on Twitter, you will also find it in their mentions. Please share away. That is the way we spread the NFL and the love for this great league while it is still in its dominance. Okay, I have retweeted. So, here on BuzzChomp and Facebook Live, I, Dan Salem, have been talking the NFL. I will continue to do so. I previewed the AFC East and the NFC East. Excuse me, Maddie. That's just my daughter. Don't mind her. And then I took a foray last week to talk fantasy football because, yes, fantasy's back. My team's league is drafting on Labor Day, like 3 days before the season. So it's going to be no waiting time between draft and the league, which I've never done it like this before. It should be interesting. Talked fantasy football top player last week, and because I have that exact debate on my team, I'll get into that a little bit later because Ezekiel Elliott has created a problem for myself in a keeper league and for owners everywhere. That being said, this is going to be the NFL playoff talk. I ran out of weeks. I was going to go through every division and talk about who's good, who's bad, and lead it up to the season. I did the AFC East and the NFC East. But next week's my birthday, and I'll be on vacation at Martha's Vineyard by the beach, so I am not going to be live. And then there's like 1 week between then and the season. Maybe, I guess there's 2 Tuesdays before the season will kick off. I can't go through every division. Therefore, I'm jumping right to the meat of things and talking the NFL playoffs this particular Tuesday night. Whenever you're watching it, I filmed this on a Tuesday. Okay. So, there are a few locks for the playoffs. Shall we get them out of the way early? You know what? Let's be smart about this, and we'll start with the AFC. We'll go one conference, then the other. Don't want to mush them together. We'll do one conference, then the other. It is a near certainty that the New England Patriots will make the playoffs. It's a near certainty. So, well, let's not talk about the Patriots. That's boring, right? They're going to be in the playoffs. It's a near certainty. Okay, excellent. So what other teams are going to make the playoffs this year? All right. Personally, I am high on the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I know that Joe Flacco has an injury, but that division just feels weaker than everyone wants to believe. People are high on the Steelers. Steelers were pretty good last year. The Ravens were also decent. I like Baltimore. I also like the Tennessee Titans, the LA Chargers, and the Oakland Raiders. That leaves one more playoff spot. So, if we're going to recap, the Patriots win the AFC East. Run away with it. They're out of the conversation. The Bills traded their best wide receiver. They've thrown in the towel. The Jets threw in the towel months ago. The Dolphins lost their starting quarterback for the year and picked a guy off who was retired. In my mind, the towel has been thrown in. The Patriots win that division. In the North, while I believe Cleveland and Cincinnati can improve upon last year, I do not believe either team will reach the postseason. Baltimore is in. I have not fully decided whether they can win the division or earn a wild card, and we're in the wild card spot. Therefore, if they obviously are the wild card team, that Pittsburgh has won the division. But I could see Baltimore winning the division like 10-6 with the Steelers at 9-7 and on the cusp. Over in the AFC South, I just think it's an equally as shitty show as the AFC East without a dominant team. I am not high on the Houston Texans. Yes, J.J. Watt's back. Yes, they have Deshaun Watson at quarterback, but he's not going to be the quarterback to start the season, which is a smart decision. I do not believe that team is great this year. They've been good, not great. I think that they're a year away from being like really good. I think next year it might be Houston's year. This year is kind of like an 8-8, 9-7 show at best. No Colts. Andrew Luck's gone with an injury. Jacksonville, I'm sorry. You're just one quarterback away from mattering. I like Tennessee. Maybe I'm putting my eggs in Mariota's basket too early, but I like Tennessee. Someone's got to win that division. And in the West, I think the Broncos are an average team. I think the Chiefs take a step back and are an average team. I like the Raiders to win the division. I like the LA Chargers to win a wild card spot, which means Pittsburgh is in. I don't think that Kansas City or Denver is going to hold off the Steelers for that final playoff spot. It's interesting because if we look at the playoffs from last year, it's a similar story in the AFC. It was the Patriots last year, the Steelers, and the Raiders. Now, the Chiefs were in last year. They were really good. The Texans made it, and the Dolphins made it. But Baltimore was 8-8. They were like a game behind. And the Denver Broncos were half a game behind, more or less. The Tennessee Titans were half a game behind. So, I don't think Houston maintains. They were negative 49 in differential last year. That is a losing recipe. All right? Miami, negative 17 last year. That's a losing recipe. Baltimore was plus 22. So they were better than their 8-8 record. That's why I like the Ravens this year. San Diego, now they're the LA Chargers, I just have a good feeling they're finally going to put it together for another year. They got Melvin Gordon in the backfield. Great. And I don't know. I'm not feeling the Chiefs. I could be underestimating them, yes. So maybe they steal a spot from Pittsburgh. But I'm not feeling the Chiefs. I really am feeling the Chargers in LA. But again, they could get their spot stolen. It's not really going to matter. The top teams in the AFC are too good. All right? Well, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Tennessee, LA, they may make the playoffs. It's the Patriots and the Raiders. And then that's like 1A. That's 1, 2, and then 3 and 4, maybe I guess Pittsburgh, Baltimore, jockeying Kansas City if they actually keep it together. They're not in the same ballpark. Oakland with a healthy Derek Carr all year. It's going to be most likely Oakland versus New England. The AFC is just that top heavy. It's like the National League in baseball this year. There is very little to even comprehend. Now, injuries can change things, and we could be completely off base. There could be a team that comes from the middle of nowhere and truly dominates, or someone like New England is not quite as good as everyone assumes them to be. But oh boy, I mean, the AFC just kind of looks like we know what it is. Hence, me starting there so we can talk about the more interesting NFC for a little bit longer. So, the NFC. The Cowboys will keep it together, will make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win their division, though. Missing Ezekiel Elliott for 6 games. Now, he did appeal today, so that 6-game suspension could get knocked down to 3 or 4. It's still a month of the season. All right? It's a month of the season. That hurts, especially when you start the season against the Giants. I like the Giants to win the NFC East now, with the Cowboys earning a wild card spot. They'll have swapped from last year. Sorry, not sorry, Redskins and Eagles. You guys are going to be decent, just not quite good enough. The Giants, the Giants win that division. The North belongs to the Packers. I really don't have much love for the Lions. Really don't have much love for the Bears. And then the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know. Sam Bradford is still their quarterback. Sam Bradford is kind of a boring quarterback. He's like Alex Smith, except Alex Smith did a lot more last year than Sam Bradford. Now the Chiefs were better than Minnesota, and Minnesota also lost AP last year, Adrian Peterson. But I think the Vikings will be decent. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think only the Packers make the playoffs this year from the NFC North. Which means the NFC South, yeah, this is going to be a dogfight. Because I like Atlanta. I also like Tampa Bay. And I do think both New Orleans and Carolina are on the up and up. Now, the Falcons will return to the playoffs. They're good. But they're not as good as last year. I think they could win the wild card. I could see Tampa Bay stealing this division. It's like a 10-6, 9-7 win for this division this year. I think it's that close and they play each other too much. But I think that their wild card will come from the NFC South this year. That's what I'm saying. And while I like the Arizona Cardinals to get better, I think they're going to be the odd team out in the playoff picture because Seattle's winning the West. The Rams, sorry, not sorry, you're just not quite good enough in LA. San Francisco's tanking. I like Arizona. They could be 9-7. They could even be 10-6. But I just think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to surprise people and steal a playoff spot from Arizona and Minnesota. Because Seattle's better. But obviously injury aside. But Seattle's better than Arizona. That much hasn't changed. So last year, Seattle was in. Atlanta was in. Green Bay was in. Dallas and New York was in. I guess I'm predicting one team changes in the NFC. Not the Lions, but the Buccaneers. This feels wrong, yet these teams look so strong. Now, I know before last year, everyone was going to say the Panthers would have been in the playoffs because they were coming off a 15-1 year where they went to the Super Bowl. I'm like, well, they lost the Super Bowl, and they lost a bunch of players in the offseason, and then they did not do so well last year. So, I know that the safe predictions are the ones I made. They're also what my mind tells me, but it's somewhat predicated on what I saw last year and what I remember, and then the transactions that took place. Like, did people lose anybody big, or did they just gain people? I don't think any of our big teams that I mentioned in either conference really lost anybody big. They only added pieces. Green Bay's a wild card because I still don't know what the running game's going to do, but Aaron Rodgers wins a lot of football games. Dallas now without Zeke Elliott and year 2 from Dak, they could be 9-7 and looking not make the playoffs, but I kind of think that they're better than that. Their offensive line's still great as long as the defense can hold it together. I mean, I think Detroit will take a step back, but who's going to take a step up? That's why the Buccaneers were 9-7, so they were not bad last year. It's not like a worst to first thing, but they'd be in the playoffs after missing the playoffs. So that's kind of really the crux of that argument, right? Non-playoff teams, playoff teams swap. But I'm hard-pressed for any of last year's division winners to be bad. I think Kansas City will be the one team that takes a few steps back at 9-7. I also think Houston. So the AFC, I see some stumbles and some rising up. LA Chargers rising up from a 5-win season. Titans taking a step forward from 9-7. Baltimore taking a step forward from 8-8. The Dolphins taking a step back. The Texans taking a step back. The Chiefs taking a step back. But the NFC, while more competitive, because I think Washington's a good team. Like I said, Minnesota's still good. I think Carolina will be better, and Arizona's good. It's competitive, but I don't actually think the better teams change. I think the better teams are the same. Okay. So we have our playoff picture. I said that it's going to be New England and Oakland in the AFC. I have a real hard time believing any one of these other teams. Now, the Steelers with their offense could really push the envelope. They could knock off the Patriots or the Raiders early. But I just think because New England and Oakland feel more balanced now and this year, I like those two teams. Now, perhaps Oakland, not nearly as good as we want them to be. But that'd be kind of a surprise after how great they were last year. The NFC. Who continues along? This is like a kind of a crapshoot. Eli Manning and the Giants, have the playoff experience. Aaron Rodgers, the Packers, have the playoff experience. Seattle, Russell Wilson, playoff experience. Freaking Matt Ryan last year, big chip on his shoulder. I kind of think the Falcons can get back to the NFC Championship. I don't think that they're going to make the Super Bowl this year. I think that they are a wild card team and they make the championship game, which means Tampa Bay will be eliminated. Seattle gets eliminated. I like Green Bay. Now, people are high on the Dallas Cowboys. They're high on the Giants. I just think the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, they get it done in the postseason. I like the Packers versus the Falcons in the NFC Championship. So, shifting weight. Patriots, Raiders, Packers, Falcons. We're putting up a funny comedy video on Friday on our Pillow Talk TV channel of our Super Bowl predictions. No coincidence, I'm going to go with the Packers versus the Raiders. That's my prediction. I think the Packers-Raiders are in the Super Bowl. Todd and I will be writing that for NFL Spin Zone before the season gets going. You okay, Maddie?
I'm okay.
I like the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is going to win another one in his career. He is too good. All-time great quarterback. He is on that level, but he's always a tier below Brady because of the Super Bowls or Super Bowl appearances. Rightfully so, because getting to a lot of Super Bowls is just as hard. Winning them, impressive, takes a little bit of luck. But getting to the Super Bowl is the truly hard accomplishment. Aaron Rodgers gets to another one this year. I believe they also win it. Okay, so I've given you my full predictions. Beyond the playoffs, I even tacked on the Super Bowl. Maybe I should have called this Super Bowl predictions. Ratchet up the SEO. Maybe I'll do that and really deep dive later this month. I think I will. So, got to talk a little fantasy football because the Ezekiel Elliott suspension leaves me personally in a pickle, and it's going to leave a lot of people in a pickle. He was the second best running back last year. He is young, so he's arguably a top 3 pick in snake drafts, and if somebody you want to spend a shit ton of money on in auctions. I can think of 2 players I would draft ahead of Zeke, assuming he wasn't suspended, but he is. Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, both Steelers. Le'Veon Bell now playing contract year, Antonio Brown just the man. So, Zeke gets 6-game suspension. I think he gets knocked down to 4. He'll miss a month. That's a quarter of the season. So, you don't have your best running back for a quarter of the season. Can you get Darren McFadden his backup? Because the Cowboys have a good team. They have a great offensive line. So whoever's running the ball for that team is going to do well enough, especially just to fill in for a month. How is Zeke going to be when he comes back from a month off? Is he going to have a slow start? Is he going to have a monster start to get a chip on his shoulder after getting suspended? I don't know the answers to these questions, but I play in a keeper league. I have to choose whether to keep him for $49 auction dollars. Now this is below market. I believe he's like 55 market, and in my league, because people just want to spend their cash, he would go for $65 in the auction. So I can have him for about $15 less than he would go. Yet would he go that high considering the suspension? I do believe he still would, and I do think I'm going to keep him. I think his suspension will get knocked down. I hope it gets cut in half, but I'm guessing he'll get a couple games knocked off. I think it's worth riding out the storm to have him for 3 of the 4 months of the year. 3 quarters of the season. Months? I don't know. 3 quarters of the season. Yeah, I guess 3. Yeah. September through December. 4 months. Oh, Maddie, you want me to wrap it up? Okay. I suppose my daughter is telling me I should stop talking, and I'm going to listen to her. So I made my NFL predictions for the playoffs. I even dove ahead into the postseason and made some Super Bowl picks. That was bonus for you guys. That was bonus time. I will be off next week for my birthday, on vacation, taking a week hiatus. Back on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific in 2 weeks, 2 Tuesdays, on the 29th. The season will almost be having started. It will be so close. We will be talking fantasy and league previews. Who got hurt? What do we do about that? How do we get going? All right, I'm Dan Salem. I am live every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific on BuzzChomp YouTube, on Facebook at The Dan Salem, always on Twitter at The Dan Salem. Thank you guys for watching, and I will be back in 2 weeks. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Peace.